I've already made a couple of videos talking about the new core exam prep class, but I want to give you a closer look at what the class will look like on screen if you enroll in the class. If you enroll in the class, this is how it will be structured. This is the screen that you will see. Now, it will vary. Let me show you something. Depends on the size of your screen. If I make the screen wider, it's going to change the look a little bit. But I want to keep it narrower. I think that gives a better representation of what more commonly we'll more commonly see as far as screen sizes being used. If you have just a normal size monitor, or if you have a laptop computer that you're using, or maybe a tablet, this I think gives you a better representation of what you'll see. But if you have a big screen like I do, I've got a 32-inch screen, you can really make it a lot bigger. But again, back to what probably most of you are going to have, what most of you are going to be using. And I do recommend bigger screen the better. Doesn't have to be huge, doesn't have to be as big as what I have, but it needs to be at least 8 inches minimum. If you have an iPad with an 8-inch screen, you're probably going to be good to go. An iPad with a 10-inch, that's going to be better. Laptop computer with a 15-inch screen, better. And you get the idea. I'm probably beating the horse harder than I need to beat it right now. And over on the left, this is the outline of the class. Course introduction. I've got a section where I talk about the core exam. Study materials written form. I'll go ahead and open that one up and show you what's in there. Glossary of crane related terms, crane regulations, these are the construction regulations here. Information from ASME B30.5. I can't give you the whole thing because it's copyrighted. I'm giving you parts of B30.5. Now, everything that you need from B30.5 I cover in the class. I just can't give you the actual printed word. I can't copy and paste it on here because it is copyrighted. I don't own that. You may also have some questions taken from the general industry crane standard, 1910-180. I provide you with those regulations. Let me go ahead and click on this and show you what it's going to look like to you. And this is, if you want to go back and review the regulations, if you want to double check what I'm saying, you might have a question about what I'm saying in one of the videos, you can go back and look it up for yourself. But that's what we have in this study materials written form section of the class. And some of you may never even need to go look at this. Now, one thing I will mention about this information, if you're a new operator or newer operator, and maybe you're not familiar with all the OSHA terminology, and you know the terminology that we use in the field, which is different than OSHA terminology. But we're expected to know OSHA terminology on the test. So if you're not familiar with it, you can go back and review. And there are some, I'll talk about most of these terms throughout the class in the videos and in other materials. But if you just want to go back, maybe at lunch, just go back and review these definitions and these terms. And it gets really basic, like, what is a load? And other examples like that. Why are they wasting ink on that? Well, they waste ink on everything, or they don't leave anything to our imagination. They define everything that we need to be familiar with. Now, all of this so far is just kind of introductory material or supplemental material. Once we get beyond the study materials section, then we get into the individual chapters. There's 14 different chapters. Chapter 1, overview of mobile cranes, which if you're an experienced operator, you may not need to watch all the videos in this chapter. What I would recommend, even if you're an experienced operator, look at the manual, chapter 1. And I go over this manual, this material in the videos. But just as a review, you might go through this. A lot of this in this first section here, this first part here, has to do with cranes that aren't mobile cranes, derricks, tower cranes, gantry cranes, bridge cranes, industrial cranes. Again, this is designed for the person that knows nothing about cranes. And again, you could probably skip this if you're an experienced operator. Then I have just a quick introduction to mobile cranes. Then I break it down more specifically, talk about telescopic boom cranes, lattice boom cranes, cranes on different carriers. Again, just now the part of this module where we're starting to get into CCO question material would be the jibs and extensions material. That's what we're into now. Jibs and extensions. But if you're an experienced operator, you may just need to review this. Also, for experienced operators, if you don't want to watch all the videos, and you may not need to, you can just go to the Chapter 1 quiz and test yourself with these study questions. Again, this is not like the practice exam questions. This is more intended for study purposes to help you prepare for the exam. That's what we're doing with the chapter quizzes and the chapter study questions. Which of the following are uses for a jib or extension? Select all that are correct. There are multiple answers here. I want to go with B, and to lift up and over. It's also going to extend our boom length and increase our working radius. There we go. It doesn't increase our lifting capacity. And now the practice exams, which I'm getting way ahead of myself here on the practice exam questions, there aren't going to be questions like this where there's more than one answer. Just like the CCO, for each question, there's only going to be one correct answer. Again, these are intended more as study questions than questions to test your knowledge. And again, this is what we see in every chapter. We see the manual, we see video modules, and we see the chapter study questions. Chapter 2, same thing. Now, I will say that some of the chapters have a lot of video modules. Rigging, lifting operations, those chapters, a lot of video modules. Here we only have 5 videos. We have the manual here. And we have the quiz. And load chart. In a load chart, some capacities are highlighted with an asterisk and some are not. What type of limitation is represented by capacities that are not marked with an asterisk? That's going to be a stability or a tipping limitation. Also, if you open up the manual, you'll notice over here on the left is our thumbnails of each of the pages in the manual. So if you want to go directly to a particular page, let's say you want to go ahead and go to the part of the manual where I talk about structural capacity versus tipping capacity, there it is right there, pops up. Let's see. I'm not going to do this, what I'm doing now, for all of the chapters because they're all laid out basically the same. Some are longer than the others. I went overboard with rigging. Way more than you probably need for the CCO exam on rigging. We got the manual, which this just for the rigging information is 254 pages. Yeah, again, way more than you need. And that's one thing that I do throughout the class. If there's something that I cover that you don't need for CCO exam, I try to tell you. Don't worry about this. For example, there are some calculation methods that I talk about in here. Now here's one right here. Finding the center of gravity. Some of these more advanced methods for finding center of gravity, you don't need to know that for the CCO exam. You really probably don't even need to know it for safe operations. I mean, but there are these other methods that I cover as optional information. Again, the manual The quiz, the study questions, is 101 questions for rigging. And again, 23 videos. The last two here are optional. Again, that's where I get into some of those calculations that you don't need to worry about for the exam. And I got to watch my clock here. I don't want to spend too much time boring you with this information. I just want to give you an idea of what's covered in the class, what you'll have access to if you decide to purchase access to the class. Overhead power lines. That's a big one. It's a big enough issue in crane operations that I gave it its own chapter. It could go. I could have put it in with work area characteristics, site review, those topics. But you'll see multiple questions regarding overhead power lines and clearance distances. Option 1, option 2, option 3, all the different OSHA stuff that's out there. And most of this is OSHA when it comes to overhead power lines. But again, manual and the videos. And one thing I haven't done yet is show you what the videos look like. Let's go ahead and let's say you're starting chapter 7, you've looked over the manual, just gave it a quick overview. Now you want to go into the videos, just click on the video and the player will open up on the screen right in front of you. In this chapter, we're going to be talking about overhead power lines and overhead power line safety. It's really a continuation of work area characteristics, but it's a big enough, important enough topic. I've made an entire chapter just for overhead power lines. Overhead power lines are associated with many, many, many crane incidents. And it's not just operators. It's not mostly operators who are affected by this. It could be the ground crew, riggers, signalmen, innocent bystanders. If the crane becomes energized, that electricity goes into the ground. Innocent bystanders can be electrocuted when part of the crane contacts overhead power lines. It doesn't have to be the boom. It could be the hoist line. Any conductive part of the crane that comes into contact is a problem. According to OSHA, and let me back up. I don't do a lot of statistics in this class because you're not going to be asked statistics. But these statistics do emphasize the importance of this topic. Because it is an important topic, you are certain to see questions about overhead power lines. According to OSHA, up to 13% of work-related electrocutions. Okay, I'm going to stop here. You don't need to watch the whole thing. I do want to show you some things that you can do with the videos. Let's say you don't want to listen to this introductory stuff. Let's say you want to go to a specific topic. And let's see. Okay, let's say I talk about several fatality cases. Maybe you want to jump straight to the fatality cases. Or wherever. You can move around. You can move the timer anywhere within the video. You don't have to sit through the whole thing if there's something you want to skip over. Or if you want to go back. Let's say you want to hear something again. You didn't quite get what I was saying. Well, you can go back. One thing I do want to, I'll use this as an option here, or an opportunity. Now, I do embed videos within the video, and here's an example here of an incident that occurred in 1994 in Salt Lake City. You've probably seen the picture before, but I'm guessing you probably haven't seen the video. This is a Kiewit crane that went up in flames in 94. But here it is.
Incredible pictures near I-15.
A crane catches fire and shuts.
But again, I do this. I embed these videos at different points throughout the class. There's not a lot of them. I think maybe 5 or 6 altogether. Usually it's an accident video or something along those lines that I embed within the material. Again, that's really what you're going to get with most of the videos in each of the chapters. I do try to limit their length. Some of them are really short. Here's one that's 9 minutes, 7 minutes, 6 minutes. Some of them are longer. Some of them are, I've got a couple that are over 30 minutes. And I say couple, I mean 2. I believe there's only 2 that are over 30 minutes. But usually I try to keep them in a nice little chunk that you can watch at work, or watch after dinner. But you're outside with the dog, take your notebook computer out, fire it up, watch a video, something along those lines. Let's see some more chapters. Lifting operations is a big one. The manual is 205 pages for lifting operations.
And shuts the freeway down.
I shouldn't have clicked the back button. The back button will take you back to your previous module or lesson or whatever you were on before. But we want to, we're looking at lifting operations, then 20 videos, chapter quiz, 152 questions. And we were looking at the manual is what I wanted to show you. And I would start each chapter by just a quick run through of the manual, give you an idea of what what's going to be covered in that chapter. A dynamic loading, side loading will be covered. Here's another video clip, a couple of video clips on dynamic loading. These were both cranes that went over, both in Texas. Nothing against Texas, but cranes have a habit of going over in Texas. But again, this gives you an idea of the information that's available to you. And let's look at the Chapter 9 quiz, and let me show you another feature that you have with these study questions, the chapter study questions, the chapter quizzes. What is the signal indicated by arm extended, fingers closed, thumb pointing upward? And I'm going to answer incorrectly. I'm just going to pick one here, confirm. And when it'll actually I just randomly picked the correct answer, but it would have worked also if I was trying to intentionally select the incorrect answer. It would have worked that way also. But when you select an answer, then there's explanatory material that pops up. But let's go ahead and let's go to another one. Let me just click here. And here we go. This has to do with shock loading. And here's some explanatory material. Shock loading can be pretty major. And this is an example here in the explanation of how a 5,000 pound load can generate forces of 94,000 pounds on the crane. That's pretty crazy. Go to the next one. Emergency stop. Next. Raise boom, lower load. Yeah, I'm not trying to get the wrong answer anymore because I just randomly picked the correct answer. Let me just pick an answer here and see what happens. This wrecking ball, some of the regulations related to demolition with a wrecking ball, which a lot of it still happens. And again, if you select an incorrect answer, this is what it will look like. You'll get what the correct answer was, and it will give you some explanatory information. Now, the explanatory information, I don't have that for all questions. I may eventually add more explanatory material to the questions, but I want to go ahead and get this available to you before I had a chance to get all of the questions. I think in Chapter 9 and some of the later chapters, pretty much for every study question, there's explanatory material. Let's go ahead and let's go to the load chart chapter. And load chart, that's, even though this is not a specialty exam, we're expected to know something about how to use load charts on the CCO exam, on the core exam. Here's the manual. A lot of different examples are used. And let's range diagram, TLL range diagram. Again, this module is more for the specialty exam, but could also be helpful for the core exam. This module, we're going to talk about the range diagram, specifically how we use the range diagram to find the tip to ground distance. The tip to ground distance is necessary for us to calculate our wire rope deductions. Okay, there we go. That's one of the videos from chapter 14. Let's go back. And what I want to show you is, let's go to the quiz. And I'm just going to pick some answers here. And how do we ensure we're using the correct load chart for the crane? Serial numbers. And here's the explanatory material. Pick an answer. Man, I'm doing good guessing incorrectly. And here is the ASME B30.5 that explains why true is wrong and false would be correct. I'm wanting to go to, I wish it would let me skip forward and show you some of the, let me just keep going. But anyhow, I'm taking too much of your time here just to give you an idea of what's in the class. Also in chapter 14, the load chart questions that you see on the core exam, they're not going to be based upon the TLL load charts or any kind of specific load charts. The TLL, the LAT, the TSS, they're going to be more general to get to see if you know how to use a load chart and see if you know how to use a range diagram. But I do use the TSS, LAT, and TLL load charts as examples, which also can carry over to help you out with the specialty exams. But this here is a link to the TSS load charts. And the TLL load charts. That way, if you want to pull them up during your study time, you can do that just by clicking here and then clicking on the link in the text that comes up. All right, that gives you kind of an overview of how the chapters are laid out and the different materials in each of the chapters, the videos, the manual, the chapter study questions. Let's look at the practice exams. Now, these are different than the study questions. All of the practice exam questions are multiple choice, and there's only one correct answer for each question. And you have two different options, and you can use one or the other or both, whatever works well. I've got over 650. I think there's actually 657 I'll be adding to this. But there's a lot of questions in the question bank that are, again, all multiple choice, only one answer. The kinds of questions that you might see on the CCO core exam. But two options on how you can use these. You can click here where it says 90 question randomly generated practice exams. If you click on this, it's going to randomly generate a 90 question practice exam. Just like the core exam, 90 questions. And when you take the core, 90 questions, 90 minutes. So there's not a timer. I would recommend it when you do this, if you really want it to be a practice session to see how you do within that time frame, set a timer for 90 minutes. Well, let me go ahead and click on this. And question 1 of 90. 90 question randomly generated. And then let me just, now there aren't explanations here. And I'm just picking answers to get through some of this. And I'm doing a real good job picking incorrectly. But again, even if you are incorrect, I accidentally picked or selected the correct answer there. If you are incorrect, let me see if I can. If you are incorrect, it tells you what the correct answer is on each one of them. And again, you go through this, all 90 questions, you get to the end, it'll give you a score. If you want to do it again, go back and click it again. It'll give you another 90 questions. Now, there may be some overlap because they're randomly generated, but you are going to get another 90 question exam that's going to be mostly different exams. We're drawing from that question bank of 650 questions. But anyhow, that's how that works. That's how you can use that if you want a 90 question exam with randomly generated questions. Click on this link here. Or if you just want to work through all the questions, you want to use them more as study questions, you can click on the 650 multiple choice questions, and this is what pops up. Just takes you through the questions one by one. Question 1 of 657. And again, no explanations. And let's say you work through there. So 657, you're probably not going to sit down and do them all at one time. Let's say you do 35 or 40 of them. At lunch, you go through 35 or 40 of them, or in the evening, go through 35 or 40 of them, and you stop. Well, when you go back the next time to study some more, it should start where you left off last time. All right, I think that gives you a pretty good orientation, pretty good introduction as to what the class looks like, how it's structured. I'm going to have one other video. I'm going to give you some study tips, more specifically, how you can use this material to prepare for the exams. Let me know if you have any questions.